What's going on, athletes and cannabis family? It's your boy Gerald Moore Jr. And I just got some updates with you guys for what's going on in the athletes and cannabis space. Obviously, there's been a lot of movement going on across states, but obviously, these professional leagues and college sports leagues, they're their own organizations, they're their own businesses, and so they operate differently than the states and the local governments. But obviously, it's important for us to stay up to date because, again, athletes are oftentimes guinea pigs. Athletes are used for marketing, advertisement purposes, and a lot of times athletes are leveraged by corporations, whether it's tech companies, healthcare companies, pharmaceutical companies, the government. Right, I live in Columbus, Ohio, but in Ohio, the Browns just got a $600 million basically grant from the state to build a new stadium using taxpayer money. So there's just a lot going on. Obviously, also in Ohio, we legalize medicinal and recreational cannabis, and you also have your professional sports leagues, your college sports leagues. You have obviously Ohio State. You have a ton of other colleges. Ohio University, where I attended, which is a D1 university. You also have Dayton University, but you also have, the Buckeyes obviously is a huge football program here. You have the Cleveland Browns, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cincinnati Reds, and then the Cleveland Indians or Guardians as professional teams. You also have the Columbus Fury, which is a professional volleyball team. You have the Clippers, which is a semi-pro AAA baseball team here in Columbus. And so there's a lot of moving parts going in the sports space, but I wanted to share this article that I just came across on Marijuana Moment. I'm going to share my screen here and just read over this article, and I would love for you guys to share with me in the comments. Also, make sure you like, comment, subscribe on our YouTube channel. Show us some love. Like I said, I'm going to be doing more content on athletes and cannabis just to keep people up to date on what's going on in the sports and cannabis world. So shout out to Marijuana Moment. .net. They always have great content, great articles. Kyle Yeager, he does a great job following everything going on in the cannabis industry. So here we got sports fans welcome cannabis brand sponsorships for teams in professional leagues like NFL, NBA, and MLB. Polls show. And this was published on June 12th, 2025. A majority of sports fans across multiple leagues, from NFL to pro tennis and NBA to soccer, say it's acceptable for cannabis companies to sponsor teams, according to the new survey. As more professional sports leagues loosen policies around marijuana use among players, and some have all allowed for cannabis related sponsorships, the poll from Performance Research and Full Circle Research found either majority or plurality support for letting cannabis brands partner with teams. There was more support for allowing CBD related sponsorships as opposed to deals with THC brands, but in no case was the majority opposition to either kind of partnership among fans of 9 different sports leagues: NFL, NBA, MLB, MLS, UFC, NHL, pro tennis, pro golf, and soccer, or in NASCAR. I'm sorry. Here are the percentage of sports fans across those leagues who say it's completely or mostly acceptable for CBD companies to sponsor teams. MLS 73%, UFC 68%, pro tennis 64%, NHL 62%, pro golf 62%, NBA 60%, NASCAR 56%, NFL 55%, MLB 55%. Here's a percentage of sports fans across those leagues who say it's completely or mostly acceptable for THC companies to sponsor teams. MLS 69%, UFC 60%, NHL 55%, pro tennis 53%, NASCAR 53%, NBA 50%, pro golf 49%, NFL 46%, MLB 46%. The survey included 1,000 sports fans over the age of 21 to 20 in 24 states where recreational marijuana is legal, and was conducted between April 23rd through the 26th. I think there's no longer a justifiable reason to be shy about this, Jed Purcell, president and founder of the Performance Research, told Sports Business Journal, which first reported the poll research. The outlet reported that the survey also showed that the majority of sports fan perceptions of leagues and teams are either positively affected or unchanged due to cannabis sponsorships, though it also found that only 17% are aware of any such specific sponsorships. I think those on the sales side can aggressively sell these opportunities, and those on the sponsor side should realize that these opportunities will be welcome where they go, Purcell said. Sports has a way of normalizing things, and that's good for the cannabis industry and those marketing with it. To that point, major sports leagues have been gradually reducing the stigma against cannabis use with policy changes for players and professional affiliations with the industry. For example, the NFL recently reached an agreement with its players' union to further reform its marijuana policy, significantly reducing fines for positive tests while increasing the allowable THC thresholds for players. About 4 years after NFL ended the practice of suspending players over cannabis or other drugs as part of the collective bargaining agreement, the league has again revised the substance abuse policy and performance enhancing substance policy. The National Collegiate Athletic Association, NCAA, last year voted to remove marijuana from its banned substance list for Division I players. The reform builds on a 2022 change the increase of allowable THC threshold for college athletes, aligning NCAA's rules with those of the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA. In October, Nevada regulators officially adopted the rule change that will protect athletes from being penalized for using or possessing marijuana in compliance with state law. The head of the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, USADA, blasted the unfair ban on marijuana for athletes competing in international sporting events, including the Olympics that were underway in Paris at the time of the comments. USADA CEO Travis Tigert said it was disappointing that WADA has maintained the cannabis prohibition based on what he considers a misguided justification. WADA did carry out a review into its marijuana policy at the request of the USADA and the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy following the controversial suspension of U.S. runner Sha'Carri Richardson, who was barred from participating in the Olympics in 2021 after she tested positive for THC. Richardson says she used cannabis to cope with the recent passing of her mother, while USC announced in late 2023 that it was formally removing marijuana from its modified banned substances list. For athletes, the league notified participants that the reform didn't apply under California State Athletic Commission, CSAC, rules. UFC advised fighters that they could be subject to a $100 fine by CSAC or CSAS if they tested over 150 nanograms of THC per milliliter ahead of the UFC 298 event that took place in February. At the beginning of 2024, the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Liberty entered into a partnership with the CBD beverage company, the first team in the NBA and WNBA respectively to forge deals with the cannabis industry. The New York-based clubs are partnering with Mind Drinks, a hemp-based CBD sparkling beverage company that also made history last year when it became an official partner of the Major League Baseball team, the Chicago Cubs. Last year, NFL announced it was partnering with the Canadian researchers on a clinical trial to test the safety and efficacy of CBD for pain management and neuroprotection from concussions, key issues for many football players who experience injuries as part of the game. Separately, NFL and the Denver Broncos last year asked the federal court to reject a player's lawsuit alleging discrimination over penalties he incurred due to positive THC tests from his prescribed use of synthetic cannabinoids. In the joint motion to dismiss filed in the U.S. District Court of the District of Colorado, the league and the team defended their marijuana policy for players, affirming it's their view that use of cannabis can lead to on-field injuries, poor job performance, and alienation of the fans. So yeah, that's a great subject, obviously a great topic to discuss. There's been a lot, happening obviously in the cannabis space when it comes to athletes in cannabis. There have been a few ex-pros that have, been more vocal about their cannabis use and their cannabis advocacy. Obviously, a lot of players, while they're playing, it's tough for them to advocate, but we've had a few, like Kevin Durant, who is a current player who's been very vocal about his cannabis consumption and cannabis use and advocacy for cannabis. On a very public level. And obviously, he's top 5, top 10 in the NBA of current players, current scorers. He's an NBA champion, NBA MVP. And champion MVP. So, to have somebody like that, obviously, that's currently playing, that's obviously his performance hasn't declined for cannabis use or being public about cannabis use. We don't complain about our athletes drinking alcohol or taking pills that are prescribed by doctors that can vastly impact their performance. And so I think, with cannabis being a holistic plant, something that's natural, as athletes, me as a former Division I All-American athlete at Ohio University, being an NFL prospect and free agent, I feel as though athletes should be able to determine which medicines are best for them. And when you look at cannabis, at the end of the day, when it's unadulterated, when it's untouched and it's just grown and it's a dried plant, or it's processed into, a topical tincture, vape pen, or a concentrate or anything like that, it's not really being turned into another product, right? Like it's just being concentrated. And so again, a lot of athletes over the years, retired athletes, have come out to say how much better cannabis is for them mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, how much safer it is for them than opioids and other drugs. Which can be more addictive, right? And so a lot of people will say, well, cannabis is an addiction, or it's an addictive thing, or you can over consume. But the problem is everybody's pain threshold is different, right? So my threshold and my tolerance level is going to be different than somebody else, somebody that didn't play sports or didn't play tackle football for 15 plus years. Their levels are going to be different than mine. So I might have to take a little bit more, a little bit stronger, a little bit more potent THC or CBD or CBG or CBN products than somebody else who didn't play sports and may not have the same level of trauma that I've had over the course of my life and my life experience and my lived experience. So I think it's important to understand that cannabis isn't something that you can just broadly cover everybody. It has to be something that, it's a case by case basis. Everybody's different. And so let me know what you guys think about this. If you're a fan of any of these sports franchises or a team in these leagues, let me know what you think about, obviously the sponsorships, partnerships with cannabis brands in your pro league. Is this something that you stand for? If you go to a game, are you opposed to seeing, a cannabis brand go across the board or the banner? Obviously, there's alcohol brands, Bud Light, you have Pepsi. Nobody talks about Pepsi. But obviously, Pepsi has tons of sugar. It's causing diabetes, causing cancer. Alcohol causes like 7 different types of cancer. And so, there's candy that has tons of sugar and high fructose corn syrup that causes other health ailments and ailments. Football is a very violent sport, and we don't talk about it often, but, we allow for, grown men to basically commit felonies for our enjoyment, for our entertainment. But, as long as it stays in between the lines, it's okay. And so it's always been interesting to me, being a player and then now being on the opposite side, like what's allowed and what's not allowed, or what's seen as okay and what's seen as not okay in the realm of like in the sports realm, right? Like in the Coliseum, like in the mode of play, it's okay to cheer and or talk crazy to people or call people out of their names or berate people or be racist towards people because, oh, I'm just trying to distract him. He's playing against my team and I want to get in his head. But that's okay. You know what I mean? But weed or cannabis or marijuana, obviously folks have their own thought processes and ideals around, what people who consume cannabis look like, their performance levels and things like that. So please let us know in the comments what you think about this topic. Also, be sure to subscribe to Athletes in Cannabis. Let me know if there's any other topics that you want me to cover. If there are any athletes that you want me to try to reach out to interview. Also, if you're an athlete, you don't have to be a professional athlete. You could just be somebody that loves to exercise, work out, marathoner, somebody that lifts weights, somebody that does yoga, Pilates, whatever. I believe everybody can be an athlete in some sense. So we want to have more discussions and conversations with people that consume cannabis, that help them with pain or just help them with mental health, or whatever. And we just wanting to have more conversations with you all, so we can, continue to end the stigma, but also continue to educate the broader community about us as, cannabis consumers, cannabis medical patients, and people that just enjoy the plant in itself. So again, thank you guys for all your support, following and watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.